Hello humans, it's B Kira here.
Having an empowered eye has been common for very long, dating to some of the oldest myths. Called magic eyes, a single stare that could terrify and even conflict damage on the enemy, it is a worldwide popular belief that is a staple of some urban legends. It doesn't always deal damage or harm enemies, it can also be used for the sake of creation and life. The special skills that are invoked just by looking at the object, some of the characters were born with the extraordinary eyes they had it from their birth. There are various kinds of eyes shown in many different anime. Today we'll be discussing some of the most popular and powerful eyes that are present in the anime. The Eyes of Ion is in fact a fragment of the Emerald Tablet forged into the form of a golden eye by Zoroaster. It grants the user with the power to predict the future. This powerful magic was handed to a girl and turned her into the Witch of Babylon. It is currently used by Kakeru Satsuki, but past bearers are some of the strongest people in the anime such as Lizalot, Verard, and thousands of others. Before the eye ascends, it grants the user with the ability to see the future a couple of seconds before, but only at the cost of some of the user's soul. The past experience and memory of the past users are passed down, and it also carries some of the abilities that the past users created themselves. Because of this, the current users can utilize this and help themselves to become more powerful as well as the eyes. Also, the eye itself carries great power. If Lizalot Workmeister had possession of the eye, the magic strength in the eye is strong enough to allow her to use Hellfall to destroy the entire world. But without the eye, she cannot use this attack at all. The core power of the eye is the ability to control the future. The user will be able to see multiple future scenarios and they can choose what future they want and will get it. When the Void Stone fragment fused with Lizalot, which gave her tremendous power, it allowed her to break the seal. However, when Kakeru trained his eyes to be stronger, his nervous system couldn't handle it and took a big toll. Even after using the eyes multiple times, it still ate away his soul, causing great amount of pain every single time he would use it. Also, if the user manages to use the eye to the point where they have no more soul left, they would be swallowed by the eye and be forever trapped in there just like Verard. In fan speculation, many fans predicted that Kakeru would be eventually swallowed by the eye just like Verard because every single time he used it, it put great stress on his body and made him weaker. Rina Sharingan forms on the forehead of the person who eats the chakra fruit of the god tree. It is the combination of the two strongest base eye powers, the Rinnegan and the Sharingan. This eye is the strongest eye power that is introduced in Naruto, where the user can easily shatter a Susanoo, one of the strongest offensive and defensive abilities, with a single punch. Also, the user can use Yomotsu Hirasaka, where it creates 6 dimensions. It creates a mountainous region, a lava-filled region, an icy region, a desert, an acid sea, and a region with the pyramid-shaped terrain. The user Kaguya also uses an ability called All-Killing Ash Bones, where she can throw bones at a target and when they are hit, they would disintegrate into piles of ash. But the strongest ability of Rinne Sharingan is the Infinite Tsukuyomi. The user's Rinne Sharingan must be reflected of the moon, and once it does, it is big enough to cover the whole world with the spell, where people under the spell is fallen into a dream where their chakra is drawn upon. Their chakra is fed into the expansive truth-seeking ball, where it continuously expands to the point where the world returns to nothingness. Many fans were disappointed that an overpowered character like Kaguya is defeated by Naruto and Sasuke in a relatively short time. The Giyas manifest differently in each individual, possibly related to their inner desires and personality. All Giyas, regardless of user, appear in only one eye in the initial stages. Eventually, assuming the user lives long enough, the Giyas will eventually begin to grow until it shows on both eyes, seemingly as a result of repeated use or pushing the Giyas to exceed its own limits. Once it evolves to 2 eyes, it is strong enough to take the code of a code bearer, thereby rendering the former code bearer mortal again, making them an immortal who is immune to all Giyas and who loses their own Giyas ability. Lelouch is one of the users of the Giyas and he is able to control the mind of whoever he desires. It does not matter if they didn't make direct eye contact, as even the people who see his eye off of the reflection of a mirror is under his spell. He also doesn't have a time limit on the people he controls, and he can control people that are up to 270 meters away from him. Although this eye is very powerful, he can only control one person at a time, and once he uses the spell, the people that are under his control cannot perform an action that is outside the limits of a human, or there would be a backfire. Shamna is another user of Gias with a very strong ability. She is able to send her consciousness 6 hours back in time whenever she dies. This allows her past self to have visions of future events, allowing her to plan around them. She uses this as a safe slot, as whenever Lelouch would come up with new tactics that she would not be able to defend against, she would kill herself, reset the time to figure out how to defend against such tactics. There are other abilities such as being able to see an upcoming accident of an individual, making one fall in love with the user, planting false memories, also receiving help from divine beings with their Gias powers. When the user of Gias repeatedly uses their Gias, later on some would lose their ability to use their skills. Mao in particular has the ability to read others' mind, but when he overused it, he lost the ability to read others' minds, and Lelouch would sometimes accidentally use their Gias because they jokingly gave a comment. There is also a Gias canceller developed by Jeremiah Gottwald, where the cybernetic eye can reverse the effect of the Gias used on and within range. Mystic Eyes of Death Perception is thought to be the strongest Mystic Eyes in the series. The Mystic Eyes of Death Perception can be called a circuit that opens up in the brain and eyes to allow the user to perceive death, the conceptual death of an existence, as visual signals in the form of lines of death. With this eye, the user can ignore the target's lifespan or their abilities to revive themselves, and anyone that is possessed by this eye is faced with death. The ability to perceive the death of a being or object depends entirely upon the user's perception of death. The brain and the mystic eyes work as a set, so having different specs allows for great differences in the user's abilities to perceive death. The user can also kill the other's abilities by simply cutting the lines. This was shown when Shikirugi killed Fujino Asagami's abilities. Since the eye can see the lines of death, the user can either just end the existence of something, but they can also see the fate of all things, seeing the future with this approach. The only downside of this eye is that it is permanent, and the user will always see lines of death wherever they go. This messes up the user's perception of reality, as the user would see points, lines, and cracks everywhere. In today's video, we discuss some of the best powers that are from the eyes. Which abilities would you like to have?